I'm Tanya Yarbrough, and my company is called Kazzi Dog Training. It's Kazzi Dog Training, and I got started in dog training it was a long, convoluted story. It's a long, convoluted story. I started off just training my pet hamsters when I was about 11. Of course, I was always interested in animals, read about dogs and wolves and horses, and decided to go into veterinary medicine, or at least that was my plan because I was good at science and math as well. So when I started working in vets' offices, I started realizing that the worst abuse or neglect that I saw the animals suffer was a lack of training. They were anxious, they didn't allow anybody to touch them, they weren't good walking on the leash, and once they were in our hands and the owner was gone, they would calm down a lot. And so I realized that how people interacted with their dogs was a big factor in whether the dog was actually happy or not. And that kind of sparked an interest in me that later blossomed after I got my own dog when I graduated, and moved on to helping people out with their dogs just for free, just for fun, and eventually it became a profession. As a professional, I had been training dogs for about 9 years, but I've been training dogs longer than that. I just didn't get paid for it. I've probably been training dogs on and off for almost 30 years just as a hobby. So, but I didn't think about getting paid for it until 9 years ago. I was a little slow learner. My company is really just me. I'm the sole proprietor, but I have a long range of skills in terms of training pet dogs and service dogs and therapy dogs. And primarily I specialize in anxious and aggressive dogs, which is really mostly the same thing, which is what people suffer from most often. Poor behaviors in dogs almost always comes from anxiety. So once we address the anxiety, we have a lot of improvement in the dogs, and that's what people usually call me about. So primarily, I'm working with aggressive and anxious pet dogs, but sometimes I also train service dogs and therapy dogs. I define dog training as everything from teaching your dog boundaries in the home, as well as actually teaching them specific behaviors, and also desensitizing them to things that they didn't learn well, or shall we say, learn to respond poorly or negatively. So all three of those things, the boundaries, the specific behaviors we want, and the specific behaviors we don't want, all three of those things is how I define dog training. A trained dog can enrich someone's life immensely, and even just a pet dog. I mean, we developed these dogs, we domesticated wolves or other such creatures several times over around the world to be our working partners, to be sort of, the last on the totem pole, but also help us hunt and help us gather, etc. So, mostly gather meat. But the deal is that it's been known for a long time that having a dog, and one that's not causing you trouble, not destroying your property, but is actually well balanced and works with you as a companion and partner, lowers your heart rate, lowers your stress level, might give a person who tends to be secluded or depressed a reason to actually get out and about in the world and socialize. Just that alone, and then you add the fact that there are service dogs that do everything from help people wake up from nightmares when they have PTSD, different stress, sort of anxiety disorders. There are service dogs that help the blind and the deaf. There are dogs who help detect whether they're going to have a seizure, chemical changes in your system when it's time to have medication, all those sorts of things. And that's highly specialized, but the number of ways that a dog can enrich someone's life. I mean, just going to a children's hospital where there's therapy dogs so that kids with cancer don't focus on the pain or the nausea as much. All those things, little by little, just all the different ways that dogs can fulfill roles in our lives is highly enriching. What's not enriching is having a dog and treating them like a wolf, where they actually share their space and food a little more equally, and just letting them do whatever they want, however they want, and making them anxious and crazy and destructive, that's not very enriching. So it's really the trained dog that actually gives us the properties and joys and experiences that we want with a dog. Having an untrained dog that just runs the roost and is anxious because they don't know what their role is or what their job is or when their job is over from moment to moment, is what actually makes things stressful for people. So if you're going to have a dog, to actually treat it like a dog as we domesticated them, you must train the dog, period. And the rewards for that, emotionally, psychologically, physically, is amazing.